Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're taking a look at artificial intelligence.
AI.
You got it.
Get
But
learned?
not just like robot stuff. I mean, we're really going deep
Right.
exactly on this question of whether or not AI can actually understand.
Understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
things we do.
Like a person.
Yeah, exactly. And to help us figure that out, we've got some really cool sources to dig into.
Always fun to have some material to work with. Yeah.
For sure. So we've got this philosophical argument called the Chinese room.
Ah, classic.
Right. And then we've also got some real world stuff to think about, like this cryptocurrency, Pulse Zen.
Oh, okay. Interesting combo.
I know, right?
Right.
So get ready, folks, because this is going to be a wild ride.
Buckle up.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about some of the amazing things that AI can already do.
All right. Let's do it.
I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing. Like, there are programs that can beat chess champions.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And write poems, even compose music.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I even read that some AI programs are passing, grad school entrance exams.
It's pretty wild, right? And that's what's leading some people to think, that machines are
Like, on the verge of becoming super intelligent.
exactly, that they're like right on the cusp of actually understanding, thinking like us.
Right. I mean, it's tempting to believe,
Yeah.
right? But I also kind of feel like, I don't know, something feels a little,
A little off.
yeah. Like, just because a computer can write a poem, does that really mean it understands what it's doing?
That's a good point. And that's where this whole Chinese room thing comes in.
Okay, hit me with it. What is the Chinese room all about?
All right, so picture this. You've got a person stuck in a room,
Okay.
and they don't speak any Chinese at all.
Brown Award.
But the room is filled with these boxes, and inside each box, there are all of these Chinese symbols.
Oh, okay.
And they also have this rule book,
A rule book like a,
like a set of instructions, yeah.
Yeah.
And this rule book tells them how to manipulate the symbols, like how to move them around and stuff.
okay. I'm following so far.
So someone outside the room sends in a question written in Chinese.
Right.
Our friend inside, using only the rule book, has to figure out how to arrange the symbols to create an answer.
So they're basically like following a recipe, but with Chinese symbols.
Pretty much. And if they do it well enough, the person outside the room might think, whoa, there's someone in there who really understands Chinese.
But the thing is, they don't actually understand a word, right?
Yeah.
They're just following the rules.
Exactly. They have no idea what the symbols mean, what the question is, or what the answer is. They're just manipulating symbols based on instructions.
That's trippy. So how does this connect to, actual AI?
Well, think about it. A computer program operates in a similar way, right?
It's all algorithms and code.
Exactly. It's manipulating symbols based on rules, just like our friend in the Chinese room. So the question is, if a computer is doing the same thing, can we really say it understands what it's doing? Or is it just really good at following instructions?
Okay, I see what you mean.
And the guy who came up with this whole thought experiment, John Searle, he argues that this is a key difference between, a mind and a computer.
Okay, tell me more.
He says that minds have something called semantic content, which basically means like understanding and meaning.
Gotcha.
But computers, they just work with syntax, which is like the rules of the language, the grammar, the structure.
So it's like knowing the rules of the game versus actually understanding the point of the game.
You got it.
Man, my brain is already doing somersaults. Okay, before we go any further, let's rewind a bit and bring in Pulse Zen, that cryptocurrency we were talking about.
Okay, yeah. Let's switch gears for a sec.
So just to catch everyone up, Pulse Zen has this really cool feature called Pay It Forward.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the things that makes it unique.
Definitely. So basically, every time someone makes a transaction with Pulse Zen, 2% of that transaction gets distributed to all the token holders.
Right, so it's like a built-in reward system.
Exactly. But here's the thing. That 2% didn't just come out of thin air.
Nope.
It's actually the product of some serious AI number crunching.
Yeah, the developers of Pulse Zen used a technique called Monte Carlo simulation.
Monte Carlo, like the casino.
Exactly. It's a way of running tons of simulations to see how different variables affect the outcome.
It's like they built a digital casino for Pulse Zen and let the AI play out all these scenarios.
Pretty much. And by analyzing the results of all those simulations, they figured out that 2% was the magic number.
The magic number for what exactly?
Well, it's the sweet spot that keeps things balanced, It rewards holders enough to keep them interested.
Okay.
But it also makes sure that the token itself stays stable and sustainable in the long run.
So the AI was basically making decisions, right? Like it analyzed all this data.
Tons of data, yeah.
Yeah. And then it decided on the best course of action, which is that 2% pay it forward thing.
Exactly. And that's where it gets really interesting, right? We've got this algorithm that's basically learning from massive amounts of data and then making decisions that have real-world consequences.
It's kind of like a sneak peek into the future, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
what happens when AI starts running more and more of our systems?
It definitely raises some big questions.
For sure. Okay, so we've talked about the Chinese room. We've touched on Pulse Zen. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think it's time to dive even deeper into this whole understanding thing.
Okay, I'm game. Lead the way.
Welcome back, everybody. We're picking up our deep dive right where we left off. AI and the big question of understanding.
Yeah, that Chinese room thing really got me thinking.
It's definitely a head scratcher, right? But the thing is, not everyone buys into it.
Oh, really? Like, there are people who think the guy in the room does understand Chinese.
Well, not exactly. But there's this counter argument to the Chinese room called the system's reply.
Systems reply, huh? That sounds kind of,
Technical.
yeah,
Yeah.
like something a programmer would come up with.
Well, it's the idea that, okay, maybe the person in the room doesn't understand Chinese on their own.
Right, they're just following the rule book.
Exactly. But their argument is that the system as a whole, the person, the rule book, the symbols, everything together that exhibits understanding.
Okay, so it's like saying the parts might not be smart on their own, but when you put them all together,
You get something that's greater than the sum of its parts.
right, like a hive mind or something.
Exactly. Think of it like a beehive. One bee might not understand how to build a honeycomb, but the hive as a whole, they create this amazing structure.
Okay, I could kind of see that.
Yeah.
But even if we buy into the system's reply, doesn't it still feel like, I don't know, kind of a cheat?
What do you mean?
Like, even if the AI system as a whole can perform tasks that require understanding, how do we know it's not just a really, really good simulation?
That's the million-dollar question. And it takes us back to this whole problem of trying to define consciousness and understanding in a way that makes sense for both humans and machines.
It's like we don't even know what it means for us to fully understand something, so how are we supposed to figure it out for AI?
Exactly. It's a slippery slope.
Man, this is getting deep. So are we just stuck? Like, is there no way to know for sure if AI truly understands?
Well, even if we can't definitively prove or disprove it, I think the very act of asking these questions is incredibly valuable.
How so?
It forces us to re-examine our own assumptions about intelligence, consciousness, and what it means to be human.
Whoa, okay. So it's not just about AI, it's about us looking in the mirror.
Exactly. It's like holding up a mirror to our own minds and saying, hey, what's really going on in here?
I like that.
Oh.
Okay, but enough with the deep thoughts for a sec. Let's bring it back to Pulse Zen and that magical 2%.
Oh, yeah. We kind of went off on a tangent there.
Just a bit. So remind me, how did the AI come up with that number? It's like the secret sauce, right?
Well, remember how we talked about Monte Carlo simulations?
The digital casino thing.
Yep. That's the key. So basically, they ran tons and tons of these simulations, like millions of them.
Wow, it's a lot of gambling.
It is. But instead of rolling dice, they were tweaking different variables in the Pulse Zen system.
So they were like, what if we make the reward 1% or 3% or 5%?
Exactly. And for each scenario, they let the simulation run its course, play out all the possibilities,
And then what?
and then they analyzed the results. They looked for the sweet spot, the percentage that kept the token stable, rewarded holders, and made sure the whole system stayed sustainable.
So it was like a massive trial and error process, but on a digital scale.
You got it. And through that process, they pinpointed 2% as the optimal number.
Okay, so the AI learned the best settings, essentially.
Exactly. But now, here's the big question. Does that mean it understood what it was doing? Like, did it grasp the complexities of financial markets? Did it understand human behavior?
It makes you wonder, right? Like, is this just really good math, or is it something more? Is it intelligence, or is it something deeper, something we don't even have a word for yet?
Maybe it's a little bit of both. And maybe, just maybe, those lines are going to keep getting blurrier as AI continues to evolve.
Woo! Okay, my mind is officially blown. So as we head into the final part of our deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to hold on to?
Just this. The line between intelligence and understanding is fuzzy, especially when it comes to AI. And the more we explore this stuff, the more we're going to be forced to confront some really big questions about what it means to be human, what it means to think, and what it means to understand.
That's a great takeaway. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface here.
We definitely have. There's so much more to explore.
Okay, well, let's take a quick break and then we'll dive back in for the final part of our AI adventure. Okay, deep divers, we're back. Ready for the final plunge into the world of AI.
Let's do it. We've covered a lot of ground already.
We have Chinese room, Pulse Zen, the whole understanding debate. It's been a wild ride.
Definitely. But now I'm thinking, okay, what does all this actually mean?
Yeah, like how does this stuff play out in the real world?
Yeah.
What are the implications for, our lives, our future?
That's the big question, isn't it? And the truth is, we're still figuring that out. But I think it's safe to say that the implications are going to be huge.
Huge how? Give me some examples.
Well, think about the future of work, for starters.
Okay, yeah, we hear a lot about AI taking over jobs.
Right, and this whole question of understanding is really key to that.
How so?
Well, if AI can truly understand tasks, not just follow instructions, it could potentially do a much wider range of jobs.
Like not just the repetitive stuff, but things that require thinking, problem solving.
Exactly. Jobs that we thought were, uniquely human.
It's kind of scary, right? Like what happens to all the humans if the machines are doing all the work?
It's definitely something we need to think about. Like, how do we prepare for that kind of shift? How do we make sure it's fair? What happens to the value of human labor in a world where AI can do so much?
It's a whole new world for sure. But speaking of human skills, what about creativity?
Ah, yeah. That's another big one.
We've seen AI writing music, generating art. Does that mean machines are becoming creative?
Well, it depends on how you define creativity, I guess.
That's true. But it's definitely blurring the lines, right? Like if AI can grasp the nuances of language, emotion, aesthetics.
It has the potential to create some pretty amazing stuff.
But is it real creativity? Or is it just, mimicking what it's learned from the data?
That's a tough one. I mean, even with humans, it's hard to pin down exactly where creativity comes from.
True. So we're back to that question of understanding. Does AI need to understand what it's creating in order for it to be considered truly creative?
It's a fascinating question, and I don't think there's an easy answer.
Okay, well, let's zoom out even further. Big picture time. What does all this mean for the future of humanity?
Whoa. Okay. Big question.
I know, right? But seriously, if AI can truly understand, what does that make us?
Some people think it could be an existential threat, Like, AI becomes so intelligent that it surpasses humans and, the sci-fi movies.
I've seen Terminator, yeah.
Right. But others think it could be a good thing. Like, AI could be our partner, helping us solve problems, making life better.
Or maybe even an extension of our own consciousness, like merging with AI to become something even greater.
Whoa, now you're getting really out there. But who knows? The possibilities are pretty mind-blowing.
They are. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've talked about the Chinese room, Pulse Zen, the implications for work, creativity. I feel like my brain is about to explode.
It's a lot to process, for sure, but that's the beauty of this stuff, right? It makes you think, it challenges your assumptions.
It definitely does. So as we wrap up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think the most important thing is to stay curious. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and don't be afraid to challenge your own beliefs about AI and what it means for humanity.
That's great advice. And on that note, I think it's time to surface from this deep dive. But hey, listeners, keep those brains buzzing. AI is evolving fast, and who knows what amazing mind-bending stuff is just around the corner. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay curious.